Well, greetings friends and welcome back. This time I'm going to address the T6 and the Keelback together because effectively, apart from a couple of differences, small ones at that, they're kind of sister ships in terms of the interior. So let's hop in and I'll point those out for you. So as you can see, we're already here in the Keelback itself, and just wanted to show you this weird graphical thing that happens with the starport services. I've done this once before, but just wanted to show you one more time where it sort of floats and the trick that they made to make it look like a widescreen display, which is totally bendy. So clearly the only difference really between the T6 and the Keelback in terms of the cockpit is this extra seat that's kind of perched awkwardly up here, and it looks like it doesn't belong. In fact, it's glitching through the vents there, and there's the rest of the seat kind of a good sort of foot below where it actually should be, which is really kind of bizarre. And the view, of course, then from the co-pilot's seat, having a look at Commander Headless with her head on this time and sitting in this co-pilot's chair, this is what it would look like for us. Now, this console is about 1 meter and a bit wide. It obviously looks exactly the same as the one in the front, apart from missing these vents over here in the front. But other than that, you can see the two are effectively the same thing, almost lined up like that. But the difference in size is astronomical. This one's only about 1 meter and a bit, and I'll try and walk the edges of that one when we get down there. This emitter is about the size, just over an A4 size turned sideways, a little bit wider. Maybe the central part of it is A4, and this little black bar is the additional part to give you the rough sort of size of things. And here, you're sitting right next to the wall. So there's the headrest. It's squished right into the wall, which is kind of funny. You have a fairly hefty grab handle here, definitely 2 hands worth, kind of like Diamondback Explorer sized. Link above if you haven't seen that one yet. And it sort of ruins the scale of things a little bit. Here is that sort of tough book kind of display. All the buttons are reasonably large. They're probably the size of the end of your thumb, each one of those. And then there is a panel there that says Lakon Industries, a scratched off serial number, maintenance only, and LBS04 down the bottom there. But you can see that this seat barely fits right into the back here. So they've squished it back as far as is humanly possible into the rear of that space, but it does kind of work. Unfortunately, we are greeted with 2 copies of those crappy CRT style screens. In this case, they are humongous, and if you were again sitting in the seat and you were to look straight up, that thing is staring you down as if it's going to fall on your head. In terms of size, it's extraordinarily big, I would say. I don't know, 1 meter or so wide and about 90 centimeters high. So it's an extremely large, if it was a CRT, it'd be an extremely large one. Grab handle up there that you have no hope of reaching unless you're on a trampoline or you stand on this commander chair, or maybe stand on the dash there, but obviously for 0G maybe it will help you move around. And in terms of the ceiling height, all the way to the top there is probably to the roof of a second story, that pointy corner part of the canopy, which does come across to some extent in 2D, but not all that much because of the way those struts point up on an angle. It sort of disguises it a little bit. So aside from what we've already seen on the sides, I'll try and show you the size of this panel, more of an in-depth look in the Asp Explorer. Have a look at that video. But here is one edge here, and it goes all along here. Here's the projector, comes back down again, and the other edge is over here. So it's gigantic, at least as long as a single bed, probably longer, about the 70% of the width of a single bed. So really large sort of display. There's some sort of display that should or could display something, but it is just reflecting the interior, and doing so badly actually, because it's reflecting it at a good 90-degree angle, whereas it's not really pointing at a 90-degree angle anyway. But no secrets to be seen in here. There aren't any hidden commanders or ghosts to be found. That's just a simple reflection. And then the main thing is, if we stick our heads through the rear door of the Keelback, you can see the differences. So Here you can see quite clearly the fighter bay takes up the majority of the space inside the actual ship. You can see the side engines there, the small hardpoints down the bottom, and the medium hardpoints there sitting next to the, well, not quite next to the cabin, but probably 2.5 meters away from where the edge of the cabin actually is, where that bulkhead sits. That's actually the rear of the CRT screen. That's quite substantial. And here you can see the landing gear. We'll see those retract in just a second as I take off. And that's kind of it. The ship isn't as long as I had first thought. It pretty much finishes right at the back of the fighter bay there, or maybe goes another meter or so beyond it. But in terms of a small cargo carrying ship, obviously it does the job. Now if we compare this back to the Type 6, it looks pretty much the same, other than the fighter bay has disappeared, obviously, because the Type 6 doesn't carry one, and the two small hard points are in exactly the same locations, and obviously there aren't the medium ones because it doesn't have them. In terms of length, I'd say it's probably 30 meters long from where I'm standing to those rear engines, and they're about the size, maybe just over the size, of a single bed mattress, and the same landing gear. And in the interior, as I said before, the only thing that's really different is that there is no seat sitting here, so you can slightly see the rear of this better. But again, the TVs are the same. I'm going to call them TVs because they're not monitors, they're bloody CRTs. And on the other side you can see this, which seems like it should be wires, but you can see it is an entirely flat texture, so wow, that's a bit lazy. So as we come up here for our launch in the Keelback again, I just want to show you the landing gear now. This actually has the size and affect of a fist, and you'll also see it as it closes up. It looks very much like a fist closing and retracting. So there you go, as it shuts, and it comes up pretty close to where I am. And it's quite a long sort of landing strut. It sits on top of the cargo bay there, so it goes back quite some distance. The other problem you can see with the Keelback here is as we fly out, those engines on the sides, even though they move on the exterior cameras, they don't actually move on the interior cameras and in VR. But the jet does move, so if you do alter the aspect of the ship, you can see that it does look like it should be moving, but just the jet moves and the engine does not. So there you are. And finally for the Keelback, of course, the cool thing is that you can carry and launch a fighter out of it. And I think from here we'll probably get one of our better views of the launch sequence actually happening. So you'll see the Taipan come out in a second with its wings bent, and then it gets shot out from underneath. Unfortunately, the cargo bay is in the way, but let's watch it anyway.
Roger that, sir. Deploying the fighter. Fighter is live. Awaiting
you can
orders.
see the bay closes up and the lights go off, and that looks pretty awesome as well from this vantage point where you would never see it from. Now, of course, recalling the fighter is much of a muchness. So you can see the fighter bay opens up again with the tunnel going in. Now watch the wings again as they come in. I'll try and get a bit closer. No. Tracking kills itself. Yeah, pretty cool, right? So it looks a little bit arachnoid, really, with its wings bent, or maybe like some sort of weird bird of prey. But anyway, there you go. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that look at the T6 and the Keelback together, the sister ships or brother ships or whatever you want to call them. The Keelback is kind of strange because it can carry an SRV, it can carry a fighter, it's a small class ship, it can do multi-crew, it has a couple of extra weapons, nothing to write home about. I don't really know where it sits, but it's certainly an interesting ship, and one that I flew to begin with, and certainly one to get your hands on if you want to try the fighter mechanic early on in the piece without having to invest millions and millions into something big. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that quick look at those two, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm going to bother you about this again. One click for you means a lot for me, you know how it is, and I'll see you in the next one. Fly safe, Commanders.